Chicago, 2014. A bustling metropolis grappling with urban challenges, social tensions, and a police force under scrutiny. On an October night, 17-year-old Laquan McDonald crossed paths with Officer Jason Van Dyke, an encounter that ended in 16 gunshots. What should have been a routine call about a teenager with a knife instead became a national turning point on police accountability. Stay with me until the end, because we'll reveal how this case left behind not just unanswered questions, but a resonant call for deeper truth. Before we begin, please like this video, subscribe and turn on notifications. Next week we'll examine Betrayed by the Badge, the shocking scandal of former Baltimore Police Sergeant Wayne Jenkins and the Gun Trace Task Force, revealing the far-reaching consequences of systemic corruption. For now, let's turn our attention to the memory of Laquan McDonald, who he was and why his loss reverberates well beyond Chicago's city limits. Chicago has long struggled with economic inequities and a deeply rooted mistrust of law enforcement in certain neighborhoods. Laquan McDonald was a product of that environment, a teen who'd faced setbacks in life, but also exhibited resilience and a longing for stability. Friends and teachers described him as capable of warmth and humor, even when circumstances pulled him in the wrong direction. Like many youth in high-stress communities, he wrestled with finding positive outlets and consistent support. Against this backdrop, a single 911 call about a young man with a small knife set off the fatal chain of events. Amid swirling red and blue lights, Laquan's last moments played out. The tragedy underscores how, for some, navigating daily life can be fraught with unknown risks, where even a minor misstep collides with an oversaturated policing strategy. Early accounts painted Laquan as threatening, allegedly armed and uncooperative. Yet, over a year later, dashcam footage emerged that suggested he was, in fact, veering away. Officer Van Dyke fired 16 shots, many after the teen had collapsed. This clash between official reports and video evidence thrust Chicago into the national conversation on use of force. Here we pause for reflection. How differently might events have unfolded if someone recognized Laquan's potential, or if immediate support had steered him from trouble that night? The footage left an unsettling question about how fear and perception can escalate minor infractions into life or death scenarios. Did everyone involved fully grasp the weight of those few seconds? For over 12 months, officials withheld the dashcam footage, citing an ongoing investigation. Activists and journalists clamored for its release, suspecting a cover-up or at least deliberate silence. When the tape finally went public, it confirmed many suspicions that Laquan was walking away when the shooting continued. Protests swelled on city streets, demanding accountability from both the Chicago Police Department and City Hall. In these moments of collective outrage, a deeper reflection arises. Does withholding evidence, no matter the reasons, unintentionally betray the trust of the very community an institution is meant to serve? For Laquan's family, that year of silence compounded their grief, as the public narrative skewed in favor of official accounts. It showcased how truth delayed can sow distrust that outlasts any single scandal. The dashcam footage fueled large-scale demonstrations throughout Chicago. People demanded that Officer Van Dyke face charges and that the CPD acknowledge systemic problems. Various community groups highlighted long-standing issues, disparities in how officers patrolled neighborhoods of color, the absence of nuanced de-escalation training, and a perceived lack of empathy for marginalized communities. Faith leaders, youth coalitions, and civil rights advocates led peaceful rallies, chanting Laquan's name as a symbol of wider injustices. Many protesters weren't just outraged about a single incident, they wanted a re-evaluation of policing culture. For some, the question also loomed, are we truly grasping Laquan's own story, or simply turning him into another tragic headline? The mission became not just securing one conviction, but ensuring no more overlooked youths find themselves in a fatal standoff with those sworn to protect them. Officer Jason Van Dyke faced charges including first-degree murder. A turning point came when jurors viewed the dashcam footage and heard forensic experts detail how many shots followed the first. The defense argued Van Dyke feared for his life, but prosecutors countered that Laquan posed minimal threat, especially when turning away. Van Dyke was ultimately convicted of second-degree murder and multiple counts of aggravated battery, receiving a prison sentence of nearly 7 years. While rare for an officer to be convicted for an on-duty shooting, some felt the sentence didn't match the gravity of firing 16 rounds. Others argued it sent a vital message. Any officer, if found guilty of unjustified force, could face serious legal repercussions. The fallout spurred multiple reforms in Chicago: a new police superintendent, advanced training on de-escalation, expanded body cam usage, and community-led review boards. The US Department of Justice even launched its own investigation, finding patterns of excessive force in the CPD. Yet critics note that deeply entrenched systems shift slowly. Some suspect other pieces of evidence never emerged: emails, memos, or internal records that might illuminate the city's delayed response. Here, a moment of reflection. If crucial information was suppressed or withheld, how can we say we know the complete truth of Laquan McDonald's final moments? As the city attempts to rebuild public trust, many residents remain skeptical, wondering if the newly implemented reforms address the core issues or merely patch up the most visible cracks. Laquan McDonald's story transcended a single tragic night. It forced Chicago and the nation to confront disturbing questions about policing, race, and government transparency. Some measure of justice arrived when Van Dyke was convicted, but for many, the overarching lesson remains that withholding truth can undermine the entire fabric of community trust. As Mats Fredriksson once said, truth withheld in darkness casts the longest shadows. In this case, the prolonged silence and subsequent revelations cast a shadow still felt in Chicago's halls of power. Even so, there's hope. Youth-led activism, continuous demands for policy change, and a cautious but determined push for honesty in law enforcement. If you found this exploration enlightening, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Next week, we delve into Betrayed by the Badge, the Wayne Jenkins scandal in Baltimore, where a police task force exploited its authority to run drugs and terrorize citizens. Until then, remember, justice only thrives when we stop burying the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.